Chaos Control!
This should be common knowledge by now, but Sonic has a lot of characters. The series has been going on for just about like 32 years, and there are like 3 bajillion games in the series. Not to mention spin-off games, comics, cartoons, and other media stuff that I don't remember at the time of writing or reading this script. With having so many lovable characters in a franchise, fans are bound to become tied to certain ones and deem them as their favorite, no matter how obscure that character may be. Any Ian Jr. fans out there? No? Oh, okay. With a fan base as big and as dedicated as the Sonic fan base, Sega got a lot on their plate when it comes to adding and introducing new characters to the series. But due to the sheer amount of characters that are already in the series, on top of the ones that are constantly being added, some are bound to be forgotten. There are a hell of a lot of forgotten characters in the Sonic universe, ranging from all different types of media, such as the ones that I mentioned before. But today I want to focus on one specific character for this video. This is a character that honestly shouldn't have been neglected, and you could make the argument that he isn't forgotten or neglected, but I would somewhat disagree. He was a very integral part to the story of a major game in this series, and appears later on in the series as well. But in recent media, his importance in the series as a whole just completely vanished, nowhere to be found. Now he's just another one of those filler Sonic characters that are just there for Sonic to have more friends, I guess. In today's video, I would like to talk about Silver the Hedgehog, not Trunks. Silver the Hedgehog was a major character in the Sonic universe. He was originally revealed in Sonic 06 and played a huge part in the story of that game. He was literally the third tertiary, whatever the word is, protagonist in that game, alongside Sonic himself and Shadow. Funnily enough, he began as an antagonist in that game that opposed Sonic, thinking he was the ableist trigger that destroyed the future, and he decided to come to the past to stop him in his tracks. Turns out he was like wrong, but yeah, obviously. Later on, he of course ended up teaming up with Sonic and Shadow in order to defeat, spoilers for like this 8-year-old game, Solaris, who was the main villain of the game, and saved the day. Yay, good job Silver, good job. After Sonic 06 crashed and burned, he continued to appear throughout the series, playing a part in games like Sonic Rivals, Sonic Generations, and Sonic Forces, as well as being in the multiplayer mode for Sonic and the Secret Rings for some reason. Despite being in these games, his role in them has been toned down significantly from the role that he played in 06. Considering the fact that Sega themselves held him to the same standards as Sonic and Shadow, and also considering the fact that I just think he's super cool, it's quite confusing as to why he hasn't gotten more representation in the series. Despite his major appearance in Sonic 06, as well as continued appearance in the series now, some fans just don't like him, and we're gonna look at why now. Silver's a pretty polarizing character in the fanbase, as I just said 2 seconds ago and am reiterating again right now. The general consensus that I found in the community is that we like Silver. We think he's cool. But there are a few stragglers in the wild who hate him for some reason. So now I'm going to talk about a few reasons that I found as to why people don't really like Silver, and I'm going to give a short reason as to why they're wrong and I'm right, and he's awesome and I'm right. A big thing that some people really dislike about Silver is his gameplay. Honestly, that's somewhat of a fair criticism, but I think it's misguided. Silver's gameplay is very unique, and he plays completely different from the likes of Sonic and Shadow. His telekinesis ability allows for him to control objects around him and allows him to literally float through the air. Those abilities can create an extremely unique playstyle, and I think it works really well for more unique and different things to be added to the Sonic series. Running fast is fun and all, but I think flying is cool too, like literally just floating through the air and throwing rocks. With that being said, the first playable version of this ability was in Sonic 06. He doesn't play bad because he's a bad character. He plays bad because Sonic 06 sucked. The game was very rushed and had like half of the dead team, so the game wasn't made very well, and nobody really plays properly. Silver doesn't play properly, but neither does Sonic, and neither does Shadow, and neither does any of the other 10 characters they make you play, because they make you play like every character in the series for some reason. In other games where he has his ability, he controls completely fine. It's really just a case of the product being bad, not the character. Another reason people don't like him is because at the beginning of Sonic 06's story, he kind of sucks, and he's kind of like a lame-o loser. In the beginning of the game, he was going literally insane, calling Sonic stuff like the ableist trigger and trying to kill him off like 3 bajillion zillion times. He also ended up helping Mephiles, who, spoiler alert again, is the villain. He is the ableist trigger. Honestly, I think that's a pretty good reason to dislike Silver, except it is not a good reason to dislike Silver, and here's why. Think about it from his perspective. He was laser focused on finding that damn ableist trigger and absolutely dusting him. And for those who don't know, the only thing Silver had to go off of for the ableist trigger was Sonic. On top of that, Mephiles looks nothing like Sonic, so why would Silver think that Mephiles is the ableist trigger? Now you could make the argument that Mephiles looks evil, and like, yeah, he does look evil. If I was Silver, I would think he's evil. But at the same time, just like my grade 1 teacher said, don't judge a book by its cover. Not only that, but remember that Silver had the image in his head of the Iblis trigger as Sonic, or at least someone that looks the exact same as Sonic, which Mephiles does not look the exact same as Sonic. Plus, Silver knew that the reason the Earth gets destroyed in the future is because of the Iblis trigger. So thinking about going about some next guy who looks evil just because he might be evil, knowing that the real evil is out there, is kind of stupid. Objectively, Silver made the better choice to look for the Iblis trigger, knowing that the Iblis trigger was the one who would destroy the world. Again, obviously we know he was wrong, but the only thing he had to go off again was Sonic, so you can't blame him for going after Sonic. Plus, at the end of the game, he ended up rectifying the situation, so it's all good, Silver. All Silver was trying to do was complete a goal and save the world, literally solo on his dolo on his ones. Okay, now I want to shine some light on his current lack of importance in the series. As I mentioned before in the intro, his importance in the series recently has been severely lacking. For someone who was literally a main protagonist and was integral to the story of Sonic 06, it's kind of like a flashbang when you look at him now in the series and see that he basically does nothing. He has now become one of the characters that I personally categorize as Sonic's friends. Now you might be asking, what do I mean by the term Sonic's friends? I mean people who are in the story just for the fact that they're friends with Sonic, and that's it. Characters like Espio, Vector, and Charmy are people that I consider to be in this category. They're all there, but they're not individually important to the story, which is unfortunate because they're all really cool characters and they have very vibrant personalities, which never get to shine because they're all boiled down to, guys, we gotta help Sonic. The biggest example of this, in my opinion, is their appearance in Sonic Forces. The entire point of them in the story was just to be there as a group that was trying to save Sonic when he gets put in jail in the beginning of the game, and also as a catalyst for the player character to meet up and team up with Sonic. Now you could argue that they give intel to the player during levels about story stuff, but honestly, if they didn't do that, I don't think it would affect the game much anyways, because the story's pretty laid out and it's pretty simple. Someone like Shadow, on the other hand, is not part of the Resistance group and forges his own path in the story that we can see in the game when he decides to take himself on in a fight instead of making the player character or Sonic do it like they do with all the other villains in that game. On top of that, we also get to see some of his solo shenanigans in the episode Shadow DLC, which shows even more of his adventures during the story of that game when, you know, the Resistance group is doing nothing. Characters like Tails and Knuckles are not considered in that category either, because they both still do a lot in this series on their own as individual characters, especially Tails because he's integral to the ending of that game as well as most of the other Sonic games, because without him, Sonic would probably lose most of his fights. They aren't just part of some team of random guys who know Sonic and are like, yeah, Sonic, haha. They are actually fleshed out characters, and even on their own, they usually do way more than most other characters do for the story. People like Team Chaotix and now Silver don't do stuff like that on their own and really only exist in the background instead of popping out as actual individual characters. Stuff like that in general is really unfortunate to see when it comes to Sonic characters, but seeing someone like Silver be boiled down to that too is really sad to me because he was so important and had so much potential as a character. He could have been a major character in the story to this day, just like Sonic and Shadow still are, if Sega really allowed him to flesh out his story and continue his character more. Honestly, Silver is a character that I believe deserved better. His backstory, along with his abilities and the fact that he's literally the third protagonist hedgehog that can also go super form, is basically a gateway to make a third major character in the series and make it a trio. The fact that Sega is wasting such a good character and basically making him a background asset is honestly criminal. Hopefully, Sega will tap in on Silver and make him an actual proper character again, because honestly, I would love to see him make a proper return to the series and leave his major impact in the current Sonic world. Also, I just want to throw chairs at people again. Like, Sega, can you bring him back? Can I throw chairs at robots again?